Are you ready for more analysis? You damn well better be, because it's coming. We'll keep it short this time though, because we are quite close to the finish. Anyways, we're starting with Cloud. The plot of FF7 does get pretty hefty in Disc 2, and it can be quite difficult to follow. And a lot of that has to do with how the game completely breaks down Cloud, our main guy. Usually when you add vulnerability to a character, there's at least something left behind. Well, not so here. FF7 tears Cloud into absolutely nothing and then rebuilds him. Not only was he controlled by Sephiroth, but he was a failed experiment created 5 years ago. He didn't even have a name. It's a difficult step to take, especially once everything does come back together. You think back to the flashback in Calm, compare it to the live stream and Sephiroth's visions, and you ask yourself what of all of this is actually true. The flashback is an odd duck for sure, especially because there are, annoyingly, some kind of plot holes there. One could ask how Cloud would know about Sephiroth going mad in the first place, or how he came to remember talking with Sephiroth in the basement of the Shinra mansion. But then maybe this is a part of what the Genova cells do, merging with Zack's memories as they did with Tifa's. There's one final piece of the puzzle we're missing here, that being what happened after the Nibelheim incident, which we'll get to in the final part. The best thing about this rebuilding though is how it fits back into FF7's examination of RPG cliches. It turned out that Cloud was just a grunt all this time, exactly the same as, say, the very first enemies we fought in the game. There's some hints to this in the Calm flashback as well. Think back to the first time we see Sephiroth fight and how comparatively weak Cloud is to him. Considering that he was a first-class soldier, we would expect him to be a lot stronger than this, even if he wouldn't be quite as strong as Sephiroth. The point of the scene is to convey Sephiroth's strength, but the information you need to read Cloud as a grunt and not a soldier is hidden in plain sight. The rebuilding features some pretty crazy callbacks too, such as the line where Cloud describes how he escaped from falling off the bridge with Tifa with just skinned knees. And that calls back to this line, Cloud's very first inner dialogue with what turns out to be Genova, from all the way back in Midgar, just before he meets Iris. This whole scene is one of the many reasons why it's so rewarding to play through the game a second time, as you notice all the hints, that the information was always available to you, but it's a puzzle that you needed to figure out. It's also nice that after rediscovering himself and finding out his truth, Cloud largely goes back to the role he's always had, that of being our leader, although the group dynamic has changed a little bit. If anything, people have to keep reminding Cloud that it is a team effort, because he zones right in on finally taking down Sephiroth once and for all. His relationship with certain characters also takes on a different hue, particularly of course his relationship with Tifa, but we'll get to that a bit later. For now though, we shall leave Cloud behind. He's certainly a more interesting hero than the norm. A lot of the times the hero's just someone who exists to bounce off the livelier and more interesting supporting cast, but Cloud is different. As far-reaching and as grandiose as the story in FF7 is, it's still quite contained, and it is still, in many ways, Cloud's story, and he's a strong enough character to sustain it, a lot stronger than some people give him credit for. Okay, we're nearly finished with character examination, but we still have a few little bits to fill, including the optional characters. And we'll start with my favourite, the bloodthirsty Wutai princess herself, Yaffe, who is pretty much the kid of the party, always getting herself into scrapes and irritating the rest of them. But yeah, I quite like Yaffe's character. She kind of functions a lot of the time as the player's voice in a way, the person who says, "Can you believe all this shit that's going on?" And I like that. FF7 does get pretty crazy after all, and it's always nice to have Yaffe around to add a little bit of brevity. She's great as the group's outsider. And she's pretty damn useful in combat too. I favour Yaffe as the long-range character over Barrett, mainly because she's quite a bit better with magic. She does love materia after all. And then of course there's her ultimate weapon, which we'll get to pretty soon. And once she gets that, well, she can just about tear through anything. Yaffe's side quest and character story, which we haven't actually got to yet, is also a hell of a lot of fun. I like to have a group of 3 very capable and very brassy badasses, and Yaffe's pretty much a constant from Disc 2 right up to the end of the game. And then, yeah, there's Vincent. I usually get Vincent for the sake of completion, and he does have a bit more of a connection to the plot than Yaffe does, what with Lucretia being Sephiroth's real mother and whatnot, but still, I just don't like the character. He never seems to do all that much aside from spout lots of depressingly gothic one-liners and the like. I wouldn't normally be against that, but it almost becomes a bit of a cliche with him, like there's really not a whole lot there aside from that. Maybe this is all because I don't really use him that much. Vincent just doesn't fit well into my style. He never seems to hit all that hard. He's got weird limit breaks as well that change his character into an uncontrollable beast. Sometimes they can be useful, but other times his berserk monster can frickin' heal the enemy. There's basically never any space for Vincent in my party as a result. He just stands there on the highwind, injecting a comment whenever I go up to him, which isn't often. Still, a lot of people do like Vincent. Hell, he even got a spin-off game, which was apparently a pile of shite, but hey-ho. But how come Vincent gets a spin-off, for heaven's sake? Where's my Sid game or my Yaffe game? That would be so much more fun. Oh, okay, and his character theme's pretty awesome as well. There's just not much else I can say, to be honest. Vincent, everybody! Yay! So, how does the ideal party come together? FF7 is actually kind of weird in that because there's so much variety in what you can roll with, the ideal party never seems to end up being the same. For example, it was only by chance that Sid ended up being a constant in this one. I threw a champion belt on him to maximise his physical powers, and suddenly he became a monster. Usually the same role would have been taken by Red 13, who I tend to use quite a lot but kinda got relegated to the sidelines here. Barrett also suffered a similar fate too, because I figured out just how powerful Yaffe could be on a previous playthrough, and from then on I always used her as my go-to long-range character. And then there's the others who just don't really get used much: Vincent, Kate Sif and Tifa. Tifa actually does have the potential to do major damage, but I guess I've never really explored it much. Kate Sif is just weird, but well, he certainly does have a couple of upsides, and we'll see a pretty big one in the final part. And well, like I said, I almost never use Vincent, although he's the only character that just doesn't have any upside at all for me. To be honest, the only constants throughout my usual playthroughs of FF7 is that Cloud will be in the party, obviously, and that Iris will also be in the party throughout Disc 1. And that's kind of it, really. One of the fun parts of playing this RPG is that I still have a lot of different ways of playing the game that I've never really looked into, and that would change the way that I approach the game dramatically. If I tried to roll with Tifa and Kate Sif, for example, they can both break the game in many different ways. Even now, after all the times I've played the game, there's still things to discover when playing it. Even though it's kind of easy, it's just great to experiment with. It's like an RPG sandbox. Okay, last of all, let's look at Tifa properly, because we haven't done so yet. I mean, the game's not given us much of a chance. It's only in Disc 2 where Tifa really comes to the forefront. Before that, all we could figure out was that she was Cloud's childhood friend, and that she was hiding something huge. And once that came out, well, all hell broke loose. Tifa, by game's end, turns out to be a very complex character, and the relationship she has with Cloud is pretty deep. She tries to present herself as someone who wanted to protect Cloud, who knew that something was very wrong, but the truth seems to be more that Tifa wanted to protect Cloud so that he could protect her. She needs that protection more than anything else. Tifa and Cloud are both kind of broken in their own ways, with Tifa's foibles being emotional. Going back to the theme of loss, particularly of parental guidance, it seems like Tifa is the most affected by that, on a very human and relatable level. She lost something dear to her as a child, and she spent the following years looking for that blanket again. Perhaps in this instance Tifa acts as an avatar for the author? If you go right the way through the looking glass of the loss theme, that is. Tifa's journey is all about searching for Cloud, and in doing so searching for someone who can guide her. A lot of times it is presented somewhat like a love thing, but I reckon there's a little bit more to it than that. Even when it appears that Tifa does have some unrequited feelings for Cloud, are they born out of love or out of care? Or out of need? Well, it'll all become clear soon enough, I suppose. Indeed, everything will become clear. I think that by this stage we've had just about as much analysis as we can take. We're just stretching everything out. And so, well, it's time to go off and end the game, which we will do in the next video. The final part of this incredibly long journey. Are you excited? You bloody well should be. For now though, it's time to end the video. Thanks for watching, and wherever you are, whoever you be, have a good one, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.